Hello, and welcome to the Office of the Patriot. In this office, I try to make sense out of the nonsense of the progressive left and RINO right. Why do people do the things that they do? Sociologists, psychologists, and to a lesser extent, criminologists have been trying to understand and answer this question for, centuries. What makes people choose one way to believe over another way? In this episode of Office of the Patriot, we're going to explore why some people find control and safety is better left in the hands of government, while others prefer to control their own lives, even if it means that the outcome isn't guaranteed. Quite a few episodes back, I presented an analogy, a comparison of the building blocks of a major economy to major personality types. My position isn't based on any sociological or psychological findings. They're just my own personal observations on how people think in a very general way. And it went like this. There are three major components to an economy, and they are consumers, labor, and entrepreneurship. Yeah, I know. Entrepreneurship isn't a recognized word in the dictionary, but for the purposes of this explanation, it works, so just bear with me. The first component is consumers, and that's a pretty self-explanatory title. And it manages to comprise about 65% of the population as it relates to how people think. These are the people who take things at face value, and they don't question authority and they follow instruction, even if those instructions don't make any sense to them. They don't rock the proverbial boat. The next is labor. These are the people who like consumers or like them, but they have just a bit better understanding of their environment, and they want to have some measure of control over it. They're not interested in controlling others, and they will take some personal risks to attain their goals. These people, they comprise about 30% of the population. And finally, entrepreneurship. These are the people who are self-motivated and innovative. They see the whole forest through the proverbial trees. They understand the big picture. These are the leaders of a society, and they comprise approximately 5% of a population. I'm bringing this whole thing up because I saw a video over the extended weekend of a group of libtards acting, libtardish. They were yelling and screaming because they didn't agree with someone else or someone else didn't agree with them. And they all appeared to look the exact same, pink, blue, green hair, or a combination thereof. Either fat or skinny, but nowhere in between. And a pinched, angry face, the type that looks like a small portion of their last shit, was still riding in the crack of their ass. This made me wonder if there was an innate reason why some people are progressive liberals while others are conservative. And I guess I'm not the only one to wonder if how we behave, is based on innate characteristics or learned behaviors. The nature versus nurture question. And that's when I stumbled across an article in the Business Insider titled, "These Key Psychological Differences Can Determine Whether You Are Liberal or Conservative." The link to this article is in the description section below, so check it out. The article pointed out quite a few observations. Some of them I agree with, and some of them I don't. So, let's start with the first one. Being scared can make you more conservative. The article noted a review of research conducted in 5 countries that found that fear fuels conservative viewpoints. And I'm going to have to disagree with this one, because I believe it's not fear that makes people adopt conservative viewpoints. It's the desire for order. Most liberals are open to change. No, scratch that. They want change, if for no other reason, just to see what the hell will happen. The uncertainty of change can cause some anxiety. So, if you happen to view the desire for order a byproduct of anxiety or fear, then I guess I can see where the assessment comes from. But in my humble opinion, that assessment is wrong. The next assessment, feeling safe and endowed with strength, might make you lean more liberal. And I kind of agree with this one, but with a caveat. The article points to research conducted by Yale in 2017 where students were asked if they had superpowers, such as super strength and invulnerability. What changes would they make to society? Some of the conservative students adopted more liberal views for changing. Again, I believe this is an issue of order versus risk, and not necessarily fear and safety, as the assessment points out. You can see this in the far extremes of both conservatives and liberals. If you look on the liberal side, when BLM and Antifa took up arms against conservatives, they also include law enforcement, military, and big business because their goal is to disrupt order, whereas when conservatives, such as the Proud Boys, take up arms against liberals, they usually defend law enforcement, military, and business, more often than not. Now, conservatives may not necessarily agree with the laws, but more often than not, they work within the constraints of the law to change it. Liberals very seldom do this, and you're seeing this now being played out in the highest arena of politics. Conservatives went through numerous committees to investigate and vet evidence to impeach Mayorkas. However, Democrats rushed through 2 impeachments for Trump without a shred of evidence with just the power of the supermajority. This is because they only value the law when it suits their purpose. Liberals are also more likely to describe themselves as compassionate and optimistic, while conservatives are more likely to say they are people of honor and religion. And I absolutely agree with this, but it needs some clarification. Liberals describe themselves as compassionate and optimistic, but only if you have the same beliefs they do. Their compassion ends the minute they find out the recipient of their compassion is conservative or Caucasian. And if it's both, it's especially bad. So don't expect a New York liberal to have a lot of compassion for white conservatives in the Bible Belt who suffer the ravages of a tornado or famine or some other natural disaster. They'll likely laugh and point and say, see, climate change is real. Next, conservatives tend to report feeling a greater sense of meaning and purpose in life than liberals do. I also agree with this assessment. Conservatives believe in a higher power, and many of them work towards being worthy of the grace they receive from God. Conservatives also believe in the nuclear family, and they value the work it takes to make one. Liberals tend to look out for themselves first. Relationships and even family are unnecessary. But if they have them, great. But if they don't, that's okay too. To me, that makes for a very lonely and unfulfilled life. Maybe that's the way, or that's the reason they have the pinched faces. Nah, I still think they didn't wipe their ass correctly. The article goes on to note a British study found that aggressive and angry kids were more likely to lean liberal as adults, and I absolutely agree with this position. Now, don't think that conservatives aren't or don't get angry. We are and do, but it's more the result of what's going on in the United States today as opposed to a chronic feeling of anger that most libtards feel every day. In the study, 16,000 people were surveyed and found that those who were aggressive as children became more economically liberal and mistrusting of government as adults. And, well, I can see this too. This comes from the you owe me generation, also known as millennials and Gen Z. Everything has been given to them, and when they are denied whatever pleasure they seek, they feel slighted and are quick to violence. The benefit for us, as conservatives, is that most of them are 98-pound weaklings or related to Jabba the Hutt, so they pose very little threat. But you can't turn your back on them completely. They are like little chihuahuas, in the sense that they wait for you to turn your back before they attack. In this next video, you're going to see what happens to conservatives who are not truly cognizant of the danger that liberals pose when they are in a group setting.
What you want, right? You go right?
You go. I'm filming you.
Oh, I'm going to hurt you.
Because you have a mask on. Oh, shit.
Oh, shit. He's bleeding. Yo. Hey, man. He's bleeding. Hard.
Hey, guys,
he's bleeding bad.
This, in stark contrast to what liberals experience when going to a conservative rally.
I'm a liberal and I went to a Trump rally to see if there was common ground. Going in, I was expecting aggression, but I actually experienced a lot of kindness. Do you want to be friends?
Of course. Loved everybody.
Sure, I'm gonna get a hug. Yeah.
Yes.
Want to be friends?
Sure.
How do you feel about being named Brandon?
All of a sudden, I became really popular. I don't think America's that divided. Reality is, I would say the majority of average American, we probably disagree on maybe 4 or 5 topics.
It's pretty evident that liberals appear to have less control of their emotions. As a result, they let their emotions guide their actions, often with violent results. The issue I have with this is right now there doesn't appear to be any negative consequence or very little negative consequence for this type of behavior against conservatives. Whereas if conservatives were to let their emotions guide their behaviors and that led to violence against liberals, we would be held accountable under the law and likely suffer the consequences with a heavy hand. So, it appears that nature does play some role in the psychological makeup of libtards and conservatives. Since that's the case, is it likely that any of what I'm saying here today will have any effect on changing the minds of liberals in the audience? Who knows? But the absent angry Mike is evidence that minds can be changed. Maybe it just takes the right environmental pressures to make those changes or to solidify them. But despite the genetic dispositions that guide our reasoning and thus our decision making, man has free will. You still have a choice on how you respond to fear and anger, to fight or flight. And this concludes today's presentation of Office of the Patriot. If you enjoyed the content, please take the time to like, subscribe, and share our channel, the Office of the Patriot channel, on your social media. It is appreciated. Also, please take the time to comment. Engagement is the major metric social media platforms like YouTube and Rumble employ in their search algorithms. The more people that like and comment, the more the Office of the Patriot channel will come up in the search when social and political content like this is searched for. And as always, have a blessed day and stay safe out there.